What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another update for you guys today, starting off with Edmund Tapsoba. Romano says that Tottenham are still in talks with Edmund Tapsoba, who is the club's top central defensive target, and deals are being worked on for Tapsoba and Mickey van de Ven. A financial decision will be made on which of the pair they want to sign, so nothing new. I mean, I'm getting quite frustrated with this Fabrizio Romano updates on Tapsoba and van de Ven. It's literally the same thing every day.
Look, if it's a financial decision, you all know what way they're going to land, don't you? So that's kind of not what you want to hear. I want to hear it's a decision based on the player quality and who would be best suited to the team and who we really want, rather than a financial decision. But we all know it all comes down to, at the end of the day, especially with Tottenham and how they run things. For me,
especially with Tottenham,
yeah, exactly. For me, I've made it clear. I think Tapsoba is the better player. I think I think right now he's ahead of his development. I do think he's worth the extra money, albeit I do think if we did get Van de Ven, he might be able to catch up with Tapsoba in a year or two, and he's also a high quality young potential defender as well, and he's left-footed, so that definitely works in his favour as well, and he's really quick. But I just think I've been researching even more Tapsoba. Hopefully we'll have a video out soon comparing the two, and Tapsoba is just on the ball, is just incredible. He's one of the best centre-backs in Europe, I think, honestly, with his passing range. He's an incredible passer, and I think we could really use that in the team. He's also young, he's also a bit rash as well, so maybe you could argue Van de Ven is a bit of a calmer defender, someone who likes to sweep a bit more than being proactive, and maybe partnered with Romero, you could argue he could be a better fit to partner him, but Tapsoba is just a much better player right now. That's the reality.
Yeah, it was funny because obviously, like my brother, we're working on a video right now comparing the two with actual highlights in there, and I was just sitting there minding my own business, doing my own research, and Sim goes to me, "Wow, this Mickey van de Ven, he's amazing with his ball playing ability," and then he gets onto the Tapsoba thing and he's just like, all right, scrap that. We need Tapsoba.
Literally, that's what it was like. I was watching Van de Ven. It was like, okay, I'm getting sold on this guy. This guy's good. And then I started looking at Tapsoba. I was like, okay, he's a different level. He's ridiculous, Tapsoba, absolutely ridiculous. So for me, I want us to go for him. I understand there's a bit more money. Obviously, I think I don't see a reason why we can't afford both. But
it's not even like amazing. A significant amount of money more. It's not like properly significant. You're talking about like 10, 15 million.
Yeah, well, technically it's over double the price, isn't it?
I know that, but still, like when you're looking at a target that can be here for a long time, to spend 50 million in this day and age is not even that much.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can get both. I think if we got both, that would really sort out our centre-back options, and we'd have such good options there, and all of a sudden it goes from one of our biggest weaknesses to one of our biggest strengths. We get both those players there, because they're such high quality, high potential defenders as well. But we'll see. We'll see who we land on. Obviously, Van de Ven seems to be further down the line at the moment. Obviously, he's pictured in London, apparently, and talks ongoing. Wolfsburg, nothing seems to be breaking at the moment with Tapsoba and Leverkusen. But it doesn't seem to be going away just yet. So maybe there's an outside chance Tapsoba can still happen. But it does seem that we're leaning towards Van de Ven at the moment.
Yeah, you do hope a conclusion to this will happen sooner rather than later. Spurs go on tour in about 10 days' time. So we need something in before then.
Agreed.
Next up, let's talk about Manor Solomon. We brought you the news yesterday that there was no medical yesterday. Romano gave us the news last night that Tottenham have rescheduled the medical test for Manor Solomon. Plan is now to undergo tests early next week. No issues, no problem, and the deal is not in danger. Manor Solomon will join Spurs. He'll just be unveiled as a new signing 1 week later than planned.
Yeah, also he was on international duty as well, so it makes a bit of sense, albeit so was Maddison, and he came back a bit early to get it completed, but it makes sense if Solomon wants to take a bit more time. I'm excited about this deal. I'm excited what he can do for Spurs, and I think hopefully he will be a good player for us, a good squad option. I don't think signing him massively improves our wing options, but I do think at least it's a low-risk deal which maybe could have a very high upside, especially if it is free. And I think there is quite a bit of upside. I just think right now I don't think we're signing a player based on we're basing the signing on maybe more what he could do, not maybe what we know he will do. Essentially,
yeah, I think I'm really excited for Manor. I think his dribbling abilities are maybe something that we don't have in this squad, so he is an upgrade in that sense, something that we don't have, and that will suit Ange's system. But I would like to see him, produce more consistently in the final third in terms of goals and assists. So we'll have to see how that one plays out next season. Let's talk about some potential outgoings now and start off with captain Hugo Lloris. Dan Kilpatrick says that club captain Lloris, age 36, wants a new challenge after over a decade at the club and is expected to leave the club this summer despite having a year remaining on his contract. So nothing new really there.
Yeah, we knew that. I'm just a bit confused. I'm a bit not confused, but a bit surprised that hasn't happened yet, because we've known this for a while, that he's wanted to leave. And you would have thought before, it was known pretty much the end of last season. So the fact that we're sitting here in July, 7th of July, and nothing really has moved, I'm a bit surprised, because you would have thought other clubs would have come in for him already who are interested, and he would have made a decision. We know he's not going to be part of our plans next season. We've already signed his replacement. So I'm not sure what's going on, why that hasn't happened yet. Maybe he hasn't found the right club. Maybe there's discussion still. I guess maybe the reality is we're waiting to see if anyone's going to offer any money, and if not, we cancel his contract, kind of thing. Maybe that's the reality. But I thought it would have been dealt with by now.
The kind of sticking points I see with deals for Hugo Lloris and Ivan Perisic we'll get into next, because they're on such high wages and still they've got a year left in their contract, I think it's a bit more complicated than maybe other deals, because you're looking at clubs that we want a transfer fee for, plus they're on massive wages and they're owed that wages for one more year. So I think that's probably the complications going into this one.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. So I think there's a lot of moving parts, isn't there? So I guess it's just weird that we haven't heard anything concrete in terms of who's really interested, where we think he's heading. We heard tentative talks with Saudi Arabia about Nice, but nothing's really moved at this point. So maybe they're waiting to see if we're going to cancel the contract, and we're waiting to see if they're going to bid any money, I think.
Yeah. Let's move on to Ivan Perisic now. As Dan Kilpatrick says that Perisic, age 34, also has 12 months left on his deal and is attracting interest from a host of European clubs, having been persuaded to join Spurs last summer by former head coach Antonio Conte. Both players are on significant contract. Oh, there we go. Both players are on significant contracts in North London and could seek compensation from Spurs to leave this summer. So that kind of just plays into what I said. And Romano says there is no firm indication that Ivan Perisic will leave Tottenham at this stage of the transfer window. No decision has been made as of now. So it kind of feels like it is those contracts that are holding these deals back.
Yeah, especially Perisic. I think he's on a
180.
180 is like a really, really big contract.
Isn't Lloris on something similar?
About 120, I believe. Something like that. Maybe a new one. Maybe it's 150. Something similar. So they're both on very big contracts. I can't see like we were talking about Hojbjerg Split yesterday. I don't think Hojbjerg Split obviously have that money to pay Perisic that amount. If he's going to cancel his contract, obviously he wants something. I can't see Tottenham agreeing to a full payout to cancel his contract though, because that is quite a lot of money. I guess they'll want some sort of transfer fee, or some, I don't know. If they're going to cancel it, I guess they'll cancel with the knowledge that they're not paying the full amount, and Perisic would have to be desperate to leave in that sense. We know Perisic, there were talks of him cancelling his contract, but that's, I think in this day and age, it's very rare. It happened with Doherty last year, happened with Willian, but I think the Doherty one was more Tottenham cancelling it. Willian was him cancelling it, and he forego any money. It's a very nice thing to do, but it's very rare. I'd be very surprised if Perisic just cancels it and just decides to move. So, again, I guess there's a bit of complication there. What's going to happen? I would envisage... what would I envisage happening? I think Tottenham want a bit of money, and then... Well, if they can't get any money if they're going to cancel the contract, so they would have to get maybe a bit of money, and then Perisic moves to a club who's going to pay him less. Or if they cancel the contract, I can't see Tottenham paying a full year if they cancel it on those big wages. That'll really hurt Levy a lot, I feel. So I'm not sure where this one lands. Maybe just a free transfer, and Perisic has to agree to lower wages.
Yeah, they are talking about a compensation package from Tottenham to pay the likes of Ivan Perisic and Hugo Lloris to leave the club. I imagine it being paying the kind of outstanding amount that what they're not going to get paid at their new club. So let's say they get 40 to 50 at their new club. Spurs will have to probably pay the remaining of that for the remaining year of the contract.
Yeah, those are the kind of deals we've done before as well.
Next up, let's talk. Well, actually, just before we move on, Dan Kilpatrick also said about potential outgoings that Spurs are also set to listen to offers for Sanchez, Rodon, Ryan Sessegnon, Reguilon, and Giovanni Lo Celso. But head coach Ange Postecoglou is prepared to give players who want to stay the chance to impress, and that includes the likes of Tanguy and Ndombele.
Yeah, and I think that's probably right. And that kind of implies that the players you listed off don't want to stay, if that's where, if Tottenham are already willing to listen to offers there. So that kind of implies they're done with the club. But it also implies that maybe Ndombele does himself want to stay and have a one more chance, or because it's curious that he wasn't on that list of Tottenham players who were definitely listening to offers, whereas those players were. So I think that makes sense. There's a lot of players to clear out. There's even more players, you could argue Dyer should be on that list, but, he looks like he's staying. It
frustrates me that Dyer is not even being spoken about in the same breath of those players. It's a joke, to be honest, because we're looking about moving on as a football club. But I guess how many players can you sell in one window? And also we're not Chelsea.
That kind of also implies those are players who want to move. I know we know Dyer doesn't want to move, so it's a bit of a different situation. But albeit it is frustrating that he does seem to be sticking around for next season. But if Ndombele really wants to knuckle down and stay here and wants to prove himself, I think that could be a very good news for us. But we'll have to wait and see if he really means it.
Yeah, look, I've said it many a time. I'll say it again. I don't want Ndombele to carry on at this football club, but if Ange Postecoglou believes in him and really wants to give him another chance, I'll back it 100%. So that's the situation. Let's talk about Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg once again now, as Matti Moretto says that Hojbjerg is of real interest for Atletico Madrid. The midfielder is open to signing for Atleti, and Tottenham are willing to listen to offers for him. Dan Kilpatrick says that Hojbjerg is the target of several European clubs, including Atletico Madrid, and is also interested in a new challenge after 3 seasons in North London. The Dane has 2 years remaining on his contract, and Spurs will demand significantly more than the 15 million that they paid Southampton for his services, although they are yet to receive any official proposals. If we were to get 30 million, 35 million for Hojbjerg, would you take not signing any midfielder to replace him and to sign Tapsoba and Van de Ven together?
100%. I would put my eggs in the Ndombele basket if it meant getting another defender. 100%. I think that would be better use for the team. It's like, if you ask me, would I rather Hojbjerg and only one of Tapsoba and Van de Ven, or Ndombele and selling Hojbjerg and both of those players? 100%, I'll pick both of them. 100%. And I think I'd benefit the squad massively. And I think if we get that extra money, maybe in a way unexpected money, because I don't think at the end of last season we were expecting to sell Hojbjerg, but maybe it's a situation that's kind of been developing over the summer. If we get that 25-30 million, then there really is no excuse to really push the bar out. Albeit, maybe Andrew would argue with that money he would want another midfielder. But let's say we do sell Hojbjerg, we have Basuma, Skip, Sarr, Bentancur when he comes back, and Ndombele, Maddison. There's still a bit to work with, albeit not. There's maybe not enough there. But I still think what we do have is pretty good. Like, there's some good quality, and yes, if we get injuries, also you could be banking on Skip and Sarr really developing and really and Ange kind of kicking them on a bit. So if that happens, all of a sudden we have some decent options. Whereas centre back, we're just so short. We need those good quality options there, and I really believe if we get both of those, that would be much more important right now than dealing with the centre midfield issue.
And let's be honest, like, if later on down the line, if, let's say, they come back from the tour and Ange really doesn't believe in Tanguy anymore, if it is work rate and everything like that, you could get his wages off the bill with all the other money that we're trying to bring in with Lo Celso, Sanchez, blah, blah, blah. You could bring in a Rio Hatate or an Alex Scott for less than 25 million.
Exactly. So I think that's probably the best course of action, in my opinion. In terms of Hojbjerg, I've said it before, I think Atletico's a good fit. Hopefully that deal could get done. If it doesn't happen, he ends up staying. I still think we've got a good midfielder on the books for the short term anyway, and we have that leadership, but I do think in the long term it's better for him to leave.
All right, let's move on to the last story of the update, and it's surrounding Brazilian wonder kid Vitor Roque, Roger Trello. Torello says that Atletico Paranaense have given Barcelona an ultimatum of 24 hours to send the documents necessary to complete the signing of Vitor Roque. The Brazilian side are running out of patience, though. Meanwhile, PSG, Manchester United and Tottenham do not stop calling. It's an interesting one. And this 18-year-old kid, he's really burst onto the scene this year in men's football, scored, I think, 7 or 8 goals in this current season so far. Barcelona looked all but set to complete the signing, but it looks as though they're stalling on the deal.
That's Barcelona for you. Their financials are just a big mess, aren't they? So you can never rely on them for anything.
Yeah.
There are even players that they've signed on certain contracts. All of a sudden they start reneging on those contracts. Now those players want to leave. So they're a mess, and that doesn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me as well if they just find the money from somewhere and just to get over the line. But in terms of the clubs you mentioned, doesn't sound like Tottenham are going to be first on that list, especially now as well. You know, Richarlison signed, who's a Brazilian. It hasn't quite worked out just yet, so I don't know if he's got great stories to tell just yet about Spurs to him. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm all for Spurs signing young potential, especially ones who are clearly, like Roque, high-performing, who could really maybe step up if Kane was to leave in the future and really be the next generation of forward for Tottenham.
To be fair, though, I think like the club might be viewed a bit differently now as a youngster coming in than maybe what it was under Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, and maybe we could sell it as there'll be a quicker pathway to the first team at Spurs now than maybe a Manchester United or a PSG, especially if Kane was to leave.
Definitely if Kane wants to leave, but we don't want him to leave.
Of course we don't want him to
sell
leave.
it like that. If we have to sell it that Kane's leaving, potentially? I don't know.
No, I'm saying I reckon regardless of Kane, you could maybe sell that there's a quicker pathway, but especially if Kane was to leave.
Potentially. Because you'd argue that we're lower down right now, so we would be more willing to give players like him a chance. But I don't even know if that's true. And also we haven't really, like, we've only just started this project, so there's nothing even to show for it right now. But I guess we could sell it, but it would be a tough sell in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. That is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any thoughts regarding any of the news stories we brought to you today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.